Okay, so good morning, everyone. Welcome to our June collab meeting. I'm going to be running the meeting today. Steph is having car trouble this morning, unfortunately. So you got me. And I will just share my screen really quick and we can get started. Do presenter mode. Nope. All right, can we see that okay? Good, okay.
There we go.
Okay, so we're going to start with some introductions. So your name and affiliation, and we always try to think of a fun icebreaker. So this month it's supposed to say what is your favorite plant or tree, not where. So I'll go first. I'm Kaylee McLaren. I'm the restoration manager at the Blackstone Watershed Collaborative. And I thought a little bit about this. I have a lot of favorites. I think I'm going to go with field maple. It's a tree that has these very cute, like rounded leaves that I just love. And you can find them over by Polar Park in Green Island in Worcester. So let's go with Elizabeth.
Hi, Elizabeth Scott. I am the Rhode Island liaison for the SNEP network. And I think today my favorite plant is the strawberry plant.
Great.
I don't think it needs any explanation.
Sure, yeah. Okay, how about Dan?
Dan Giza, fishery biologist with Verdantis, also a Tatnick Brook Watershed Association member. Favorite tree, I guess I'll say a maple as well, or any tree that you can kind of climb stuff. Especially for my son, he like enjoys climbing trees.
Love it. Katie?
Hi, just had to double check that I was the only Katie for today. My name's Katie Liming. I'm the Lakes and Ponds coordinator for the city of Worcester, and I grew up in the Phoenix area, so I got to stay true to my favorite plant as the saguaro cactus.
Awesome. David?
Hey, yeah, David Tapscott, Uxbridge Board of Health and core team for MVP. Favorite plant? It's really hard. Jack in the Pulpit. They're they come out of nowhere and they sort of hang around and they hide their beauty and then they go away.
Awesome. I don't think I know that one. I'll
Yeah.
have to look it up. Our speaker for today, Olivia, do you want to go next?
Hi, everyone. My name is Olivia Lopez. I'm with the United States Environmental Protection Agency. And I think my favorite plant or tree, I guess, is an eastern hemlock. It's just always been my favorite.
Great. Nick.
Good morning. This is Nick Cohen. I'm a planner with the Horsley Witten Group. My favorite tree or plant is definitely the tulip tree.
Love a tulip tree. Ted?
Hi, Ted Beauvais with the Blackstone River Watershed Association. And my favorite tree is the American chestnut, which I've only seen full-grown versions of those trees in a city park in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where the chestnut blight never arrived.
Wow. Very cool. There's a couple of hybrid ones over at the Hadwin Arboretum in Worcester. Peter.
Yes, Peter Coffin with the Blackstone River Coalition and the Blackstone Headwaters Coalition. My favorite tree this time of year is the catalpa tree. It's in bloom, and then it has these long seed pods. Very graceful.
Great. Thanks, Peter. Danielle?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Danielle. I'm with the Narragansett Bay Estuary Program. And my favorite plant is the hydrangea. They're so pretty this time of year. They're like just starting to bloom. So I'm really excited about that.
Love it. My mom loves hydrangeas. Judy.
Good morning, everybody. Judy Rondo with the Non-Point Source Management section in the Watershed Planning Program at Mass EP. I think my favorite plant, absolutely hands down, no doubt about it, is hostas.
Great, thanks, Judy. Amanda.
Hi, I'm Amanda Coffier at Upper Blackstone Clean Water. I think my favorite tree is the shagbark hickory. Growing up, we had a huge one in our yard, and it's just so cool to see like the bark kind of shagging off of it. I've always been fascinated by it.
Great, thanks. Morgan.
Hi, I'm Morgan. I'm a researcher at Clark University, and the plants that grew on me while living in this area for the last few years is the mountain laurel that are just there all year, and then now they're in bloom, and they're just the most magical thing with those crazy beautiful flowers. So it became my favorite lily.
Great, thanks. Hillary.
Morning, everybody. Hillary King. I'm with the Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs with the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant Program, the Central Regional Coordinator. And I was going to talk about the excitement and anticipation of my blueberries and raspberries until Olivia mentioned the Eastern hemlock. And I'm with you. I love a hemlock forest. So hopefully some of them stick around for a while.
Great, thanks. Max.
Hello, I'm Max Schiller. I'm one of the interns at Hopkins Department of Public Works, and I'd say my favorite tree has to be the sycamore.
Great, thanks. Kayleen, I hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah, it's Kayleen. I'm the non-point source management intern, and my favorite tree is a willow tree.
It's a good choice. Liam.
Hi, I'm Liam. I'm also an intern at the Hopkinton Department of Public Works, and I want to shout out the loblolly pine. It's the biggest tree I've ever seen. So
Awesome, thanks. Allison.
Everyone. I'm Allison from Rhode Island, Department of Transportation, Office of Stormwater Management. And I'm going to use my mother's favorite line of what's your favorite child? Whatever one is closest to me is my favorite plant. So I have a little bit of an obsession with house plants, but I have to say my favorite, which is usually closest to me, is a snake plant because it thrives on loving neglect, which is my type of tree or plant.
Love it. Awesome. Erin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aaron Shaheen. I am a community involvement coordinator from the EPA, work on the Peterson Puritan site. And my favorite tree is the Divvy tree, which is the most common tree in Aruba, and that's where I like to vacation.
Great, thanks. Did I miss anybody? Nope. Okay, great. Thank you all. Oh. So I'm going to turn it over to Olivia Lopez and the folks at the EPA to speak about the Peterson Puritan Superfund site.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're waiting for one more. Apologies, but while we wait, I'll get our presentation pulled up. And I might just like need a minute as we usually use Teams. And
sure.
I'm
yeah.
not an expert in
yeah, take your time. I know. I'm a Zoom girl, but every time I'm asked to use Teams, it's not pretty.
I have it pulled up on PowerPoint, but I'm not seeing it. So hold on, let me just open it in a window on Chrome.
I have to say, Zoom, they really dropped the ball. They were like the first. Well, actually, it was Skype that really dropped the ball. Skype had everyone. They were the first video kind of meeting app that is widely used, and then Teams just took over.
Mm.
Okay.
Everyone, sorry I'm late.
Oh, no worries. Hey, Hoshaya, I was just pulling up the presentation. Okay. Oops. Okay. Can you all see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hoshaya, do you want to just quickly introduce yourself? I think Aaron and I and others did, but it might just be a good idea for you too as well.
Yes, of course. Sorry, I missed the beginning. My name is Shaya Barzinski. I am the remedial project manager for EPA for the Peterson Puritan OU2 site.
Okay, thank you. All right.
You know, I know I'm joining late and I know you guys have limited time, so I'm going to run through these quickly. We might skip a couple of the history slides if you guys don't mind. But this is just some background on the site. As you guys know, it's on the Blackstone River. It's about a mile long. The area surrounding it is, you know, there's a mixture of, there's the bike path, there's also some residences and also some industrial and commercial areas. And the bike path, the site itself is right along the bike path. So I don't know if you guys often go down the river in the bike path, but you can see the site from both of those places. Go to the next slide. Some history of the contamination. There's a lot of unknowns, but there was a lot of material disposed of there between basically the 50s and the 80s. There was definitely some hazardous waste. There's a lot of just commercial waste, textiles. We're finding a lot of like hoses and fabric and things, a lot of tires. Back in the, I think 50s, there was a racetrack right near there. You can kind of see it in the very, very bottom corner of the slide. It's right where Stop and Shop is now. There was a racetrack there. So there's a lot of tires there that it seems like they got disposed of. And it seems like they also accepted a lot of tires for disposal also. And I don't know if you can see just sort of up and a little to the left of the racetrack, there's an area, that a little peninsula, and it's kind of a lot of different colors. Yeah, kind of just down from there, that's the Nunes parcel. And what you're seeing in this picture is just like thousands of drums, or I guess 500 or so drums that were located on that property. So all of that ended up also getting disposed of in this area. So that's the contamination that we're dealing with. Next slide. I'm going to skip through this. This is a lot of history, long time ago, of, you know, the evolution of the site and how long ago it was listed and what's happened in the past, you know, 30 years or so. But basically, most recent history is that the record of decision, which is the decision document for this site, was written and signed in 2015 by EPA, so about 10 years ago. Since then, they've done some other pre-design investigations, and they have started actually doing the actual cleanup in last summer. So July 2024 is when they started doing the cleanup, and we expect it'll take, it depends on weather and water level because it's so close to the river, but maybe 4 or 5 years, we're hoping. What the remedy is including is basically all of the waste and material that's there is getting consolidated into one area, mostly that pink area, which is called the JM Mills landfill, and the beige area to the right, which is the Nunes parcel. Everything that's on that whitish cream colored area, which is the unnamed island, all the waste that's there is getting excavated and placed somewhere else, because that island is very low lying. It's in the floodplain. The river goes right over it when the river's high. We wanted to make sure all of the waste got removed from there, consolidated in an upland area where it wouldn't be subject to, you know, possible dislodging by the river. And following that, I think you can go to the next slide. This is sort of just showing a little bit more detailed. That purple area is like a sediment excavation. The red area is actual waste. And that brown area is sort of just contaminated soil that we're excavating. Go to the next slide. This is a long video, so I don't know if we want to play it right now because it's about 8 minutes long, but I would say if Olivia sent this out to you, it's really good to see. This is just a drone video of the entire site. What you're looking at in this cover photo right now is the unnamed island. You're looking south, so the Blackstone River sort of splits right here. The main channel people used to go along is that one that goes down along the bottom in front of the thing. That's sort of been There's a causeway across that now blocking passage. So now kayakers and canoers go down the right-hand side, which is right along the bike path over on the right-hand side. And all of those water areas you can see in the island, the large one has always been a pond. And those smaller areas are areas where waste has been excavated, or sediment's been excavated, or soil has been excavated. And this is when the water is rather high. But yeah, Olivia can send this to you guys. You guys can watch it in your own time. It's really interesting to see. So this is just, this is just some photos. I didn't mention this, but part of our remedy is that we selected specific trees for saving, specific trees that were like older trees or high value trees that we wanted to save to help to reseed the area for the restoration. So, this snow fencing is up to make sure that there's no heavy equipment driving over the roots of the trees. They're supposed to stay a certain distance away from the trees. And we tag these trees for basically saving as part of our restoration efforts. Next slide. That's just an example of the waste that we're finding inside. This is the root ball of a tree where you can see it's like hardly any soil, mostly just plastic and fabric. Next. This is just a picture of the dredging that they're doing. So this is the equipment that they're using to dredge the sediment that's down below the water in the pond on the unnamed island. Next slide. They're mixing the sediment. The sediment's very wet, so they're mixing it with wood chips and drier material before they place it up on the landfill, because we don't want to have a ton of water running down into the landfill. We're over it. More pictures of excavating the waste areas. Next. As they excavate these waste areas, what they're doing is they need to go down to beyond where the waste ends to make sure they get it all. So they're then scooping up buckets of gravel and sand from the bottom that the engineer of record is observing to make sure that they've actually gotten all the waste out. So this is like a clean bucket at the bottom of the excavation. Next. This is on the top of the landfill where they're placing the material in like a 1-foot lift to make sure that they can compact it properly, and then rolling over it with a dozer till it's at the right grade. Next. This is just another part of the cleanup. There's a lot of very large concrete, I forget what the word is. It's like it's a part of a bridge, the part that holds like the span of the bridge, like a very long concrete rebar material. And those were left on site. So they have to break those up into small pieces before they can place them in the landfill. So that's that. And this is another area where they're excavating and they're sort of placing material in lifts. This is right along the back side of the landfill against the railroad, right along that fence there, which is basically where the waste ends for the most part. That next picture was people placing and replacing the erosion controls. So in all of the areas where there has been work done, because there's no more grass or plants there to hold the soil together, it is subject to erosion. So they put in erosion controls to minimize the amount of material that might run off into the river here. So that's what they're doing there. This is during one of the last floods. Additionally, they made a soil berm. They took a lot of clean material and made sort of a hill around the island to try to keep material in the island, again, to minimize what might run off into the river. Next. And this is a water truck, which we have driving around on the days where it's dry out, to cut down on the dust, to make sure that no dust is leaving the site, and also for the worker protection so that they're not breathing too much dust while they're working. Again, this is another sort of erosion control and restoration effort that they're doing around one of the waste areas here. So this is site restoration. So once the site is done, there is a plan for how it's going to be restored. These are sort of just different types of wetlands, and it's been, based on the elevations of the different areas in the future scenario, what kind of wetland it's going to be. The PRP or the people doing the cleanup are responsible for restoring things basically to pre-construction conditions, trying to restore habitat use, similar characteristics like vegetation and everything else that was there before. They also have to do long-term groundwater and surface water monitoring of any contaminants that might be leaving the site. So these are just some pictures to give people an idea of what to expect in the future. I know it looks very ugly right now. There's just a lot of dirt, just like this left picture on the left. this is what we expect it to look like in the future. The island, it will be covered with a sort of a wetland slash wildflower mix that will fill in similar to what we see on the right. Next slide. And the next slide is another example too, where it's a similar area, what it looks like during construction, what it will look like afterwards. And then the next few slides are computer renderings that were done. So on the bottom is a map, and you can see where the one and the arrow is circled. So that's basically the direction and location that this photo is taken. On the left is what it looks like now. And on the right is a computer rendering of what it might look like in the future once the restoration is partially underway. So once the area is capped and planted, and once the riverbank restoration is done and starting to grow in, it might look like that. And then you can go to the next one. Here's another example. On the right, you can see that there is sort of a riprap. All of those stones, that riprap area is there to, protect the areas that were excavated and hold everything back. But it will eventually, that riprap is filled with soil that will eventually be, area for plants to grow back in, and there'll be sort of trees planted in there as well. So that's what it might look like a couple years into restoration, I would say. Next. Similar on the left, you can see where there is now that area will be a hill. That's on the Nunes parcel, the area near Stop and Shop. It will be capped also and covered with this sort of wildflower mix, and there will be riprap at the bottom, but it will grow in the future. And this last one is looking down at the Pratt Dam. So if you can see the Pratt Dam, you can see the little holes in the right-hand side of each picture. This is the area where there will be, that path there is for, that's required by the EPA in our decision document for them to have emergency access to this area above the Pratt Dam for firefighters, EMTs, emergency response people to be able to get there if needed, if there is an emergency. It does connect to the bike path, so it would be a potential portage area for people using the river. And next, and I think, yeah, that's all I've got. So I'm turning it back to Olivia and Erin.
Yeah, thanks so much, Hoshaya. Yeah, Erin, I can definitely take this slide, but I think we basically just wanted to give a community involvement plan, which is, the role Erin and I both share. Basically, the two of us are working on updating the community involvement plan, which really is a document that's created by EPA, but the purpose of it is to serve the community that kind of lives, works, and sort of recreates around the Superfund site. And so Erin and I right now are conducting interviews where folks are able to kind of freely share their opinions on what's going on, their thoughts about the site, and also kind of provide a little bit of like history on how folks have interacted with the site previously and how they would like to keep, using the riverway and the waterway and interact with the site in the future. The document, like I said, we're both working on, but eventually it will be public and will be posted on the Superfund webpage for Peterson and Puritan. So it'll be, able to be seen and read by everyone. So if you're interested in, speaking to either Erin or I on your experience or what your thoughts are about the cleanup, definitely feel free to reach out to us. In a second, I'll throw our names and emails and whatnot in the chat, and also a link to that YouTube video. Just kind of sort of wanted to check in. And if there are any questions for Erin, Hoshaya, and I, definitely feel free to send them our way.
I'll just add one quick thing just about the community involvement plan. It's great because it's a living document, so it can be updated as often as possible. And also it's something, so for example, if someone new was on the site at some point, or someone was new to the area to learn about the site, had a lot of information about the background and what the previous cleanup was. And also it kind of lays out the plan for the future, what our communication strategies are. So if people are like, oh, how is EPA communicating on the site, they can read that document and they'll have a pretty good idea of kind of what people have suggested to us and the things that we normally do to communicate. So we definitely value your input and people you may know who you think would be interested in being a part of the interview. So, but that's it.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you guys so much. That was lovely. Are there any questions? Yeah, David.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could just briefly outline how you reached out to the community and how far back did you go in the history of this site? We've had a similar experience in Uxbridge of having a site which is now a Superfund site, and there's a lot of community awareness, but not really involvement in ongoing processes. So I wonder if you could speak to that a little bit.
I could definitely. Sorry, Hosha, I saw you speaking, but you were on mute. But
I was just
go
saying, do
ahead.
you want to take this or do you want me to take it? I can. I know that we do have a community involvement plan that's older. I'm not sure what, how old it is, and that was created, at some point. I know that there was community outreach during the development of the record of decision. There always is during that period where we have public meetings and there's opportunity for public feedback on the decision, the remedy the EPA has chosen. So I know that there was outreach and community feedback at that point. We do have a TAG group, which is a technical assistance group, which is a community group that does, they've reviewed the design documents, they've given feedback on things that have been happening at the site, and that is the Blackstone River Watershed Council slash Friends of the Blackstone. So they are continuously involved, but we would like to have more broader engagement from the community. So I think that is sort of what's prompting Olivia right now to sort of update the community involvement plan, reach out to more people, and sort of try to cast a broader net for feedback.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Great.
Morgan? Was there another question?
Hi. Yeah, I just was a little curious to, either I missed it, but like if you could say again, like, or more about what's going on with the place where you put all the contaminated sediment.
Yes.
Sort of like, I imagine you thought like there's some thought about how to do that well and how you track that it stays okay, but can you say a bit more here?
Yeah, I did skip through that pretty quickly. So we're taking all of the contaminated material and the waste, we're putting it into the two areas, basically landfilling it. So we're putting it into two piles and then we're capping it with an impermeable cap. So it's a geomembrane that is basically impermeable to water. It gets capped. That cap gets heat sealed in all the areas. So it should be, there shouldn't be any leaks into it at all. It gets sort of anchored down at the bottom. And the idea with that is that after some time, whatever's in that, all the contaminated material there, it dries out and there's nothing left to leach into the river. It's already, it's very old and there's not a lot of, we don't see a lot of leachate or contaminants coming off of it already, but capping it is the protective thing to do. And it basically also prevents any exposure to anyone above the landfill. So, theoretically, people could be up above the landfill. You could, have recreational use potentially, and the cap is there to protect anyone from being exposed to the material that's below.
Yeah, I was just curious because it looked fairly steep, like it's not completely,
It will be
So-
fairly steep. I mean, there is there's guidance about landfills and what slope you
Mhm.
can have, and it is
Okay.
within that guidance. I think it's like a 3-to-1 slope, basically. There are areas where it is steep. Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to know.
Sure.
Great, thanks. Elizabeth?
Hi, I have a follow-up question on that. So, given its location, just curious of its location within the floodplain, because obviously the river can, we've seen 500-year storm events.
Yeah.
So where is it relative to the floodplain?
Right. So the island part is within the floodplain. It would be difficult and I think unwise to try to cap anything in that area. The JM Mills area and the Nunes parcel, those other areas, obviously they extend down into the floodplain. The material is all pushed so that most of it is above the floodplain, but there is some that's in the cap does extend down into the floodplain. And then it's anchored. So everything that's even though it is down below the floodplain, it's basically has a impermeable layer that's keeping, sort of separating it from the flow of the river. Although even within the cap, you're correct that the groundwater will rise and fall in that zone. That's already happening, and that's sort of unavoidable. So this is basically protecting it from the flow of the river area.
And there's, I'm gonna sneeze again, but there's a responsibility of the owner to do repair any flood damage that might occur with those heavy high
So it's not
flows.
it's not the owner. There's the ownership of the property right now is, there's not necessarily an actual owner, because it is it's several parcels. Most of them have been tax defaulted, and which gives the town itself an ownership stake in the property, but not a complete ownership. So it's sort of a gray area. It's like the ownership of the property right now, which is something we're working with. But the responsible parties, who are the ones who basically EPA has gone to court, settled with them for them to complete this remedy and do all of this. So there's the ones actually out there doing the work, and we're overseeing it. But they are the ones who are responsible in perpetuity for maintaining this remedy and making sure that it remains protective. So if at any point something happens, as far as like a flood damage, there will be some flood erosion. There will be some things sometimes. It's not necessarily that they come out every time the water gets high and fix every rock, but it's that they will come out periodically and make sure that it remains protective, make sure that the remedy continues to work and to protect people. And that responsibility never ends for them.
Great. David?
Yeah, just another quick question. What's the total cost of this, an estimate of the total cost of this whole cleanup? And are the owners prepared to be responsible? Are they fiscally sound enough to meet these costs?
Yes, I think that in the ROD, the estimate was like 60 million, and I think that they're, certainly approaching that. That is part of our process so earlier on, before any of this gets signed, the lawyers go and they try to find all the responsible parties, which can basically be anyone that owned the property, like the Mazurkowskis. It can be anyone that trucked material back and forth. So those would be the people that transported it to the waste site, or anyone that generated any material that ended up there. So even if they're in like Texas, they created some material, ended up in this landfill, they could also be a liable party. So the lawyers go through that process and they track down everyone that they can that could potentially be liable. And then they also sort of investigate, like you said, how viable they are as a cleanup party, how much money they have. And they'll approach each one individually. Some of them they will settle out with for a settlement and get money that we use to do our oversight, or some of them they will say, you're going to do the cleanup. And so basically we have a group of, I feel like it's like maybe 10, at least a dozen different companies, parties, we call them, that have formed one group, and they all signed a consent decree with EPA to do this cleanup. So they have, yes, they have the money to do it, and they're able to do it. And they've already signed the consent decree with the estimate of how much it's going to cost. They do have some, if the cost was to go far above what it was estimated, they could say, this isn't what we agreed to, but it has to be like, more than 50% more. And then they would have to go through the whole court process to do that. And then generally they would still have to do it somehow. It would just be, a new agreement. But all of the restoration and all of the, maintenance, operation and maintenance of the remedy is included in that original agreement that they've already agreed to. So, yeah.
Well, it's good that you found responsible parties, because sometimes
Yeah,
that doesn't happen.
that's true. Yeah.
Thank you.
And when can we expect the project to be completed?
I think we're hoping for it to be done in about 4 to 5 construction seasons or years or so. We expect that the unnamed island area will be completed by the end of this calendar year, I'm hoping, and will be starting to be restored before the winter, so at least like seeded. So hopefully next spring you will see green on that island. That's the first, that's sort of the first phase. So yeah.
That's great. That'll be a big change from how it looks now.
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions?
One last plug. We did send out a bunch of invitations, I guess, via postcard and mailers for folks to be engaged in updating the community involvement plan. But if we somehow missed you and you're interested, again, I'll throw our names and emails in the chat, but feel free to contact Erin or I, and we'll reach out to you.
Great. Thank
Also, I
you
wanted to
guys
say
so
that
much.
the
Yeah, no, go
the
ahead.
whole the presentation that we just showed you is on the website for the site. So if you go to the Peterson Puritan site and you go to like available documents, I think it should be in under like public relations documents or something like that. You should be able to find that presentation if you want to see it. And I think Olivia said she's going to send the video to the drone, but that's also in that presentation. And also on the website, you can see me and Erin and Olivia's contact information if you think of anything else and you want to reach out.
Great. And I can include all of that in the notes as well.
Okay. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. This was so great. This was a very highly anticipated topic. So thanks so much. And we're
Thank
going
you.
to go into our updates for the collab. You're welcome to stay. You're welcome to hop off. Totally up to you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Great. Okay. If I can get my slideshow back. Can you guys see that? Is it full screen? Great. Okay. So we did these things. I'll run through some collab updates and then we'll talk about some partner updates and you all can share your updates. So we were chosen as a finalist for the 2025 Nonprofit Excellence Award from the Mass Nonprofit Network, which we were so excited to be chosen for. So there was an event that took place on this past Wednesday, so 2 days ago, at the New England Aquarium in Boston. It was a really great event, lots of networking. It was a lot of fun. So we were honored to be chosen for that. We have a couple of academic partnerships and research opportunities here. So we are working with RISD, the Rhode Island School of Design, and the National Park Service. We have 2 interns that will be doing a literature review of municipal organizational reports, so MVP reports and hazard mitigation plans and any master plans for the main STEM communities that border the river. Essentially looking for restoration priorities. There's a lot of information out there, so we're really excited to kind of get it all in one place. And then in addition to the kind of municipal focused reports, we're also going to be looking at all of the reports from Blackstone Heritage Corridor and EPA and all of the reports that have been done up to this point. There's been a lot of work that happened like in the 90s and the early 2000s that we've just like never really cataloged and gone through. So this will be an ongoing effort of the collaborative. We'll make everything accessible as well as far as what we find. So yeah, we're really excited to get that going. Oh, sorry, Katie, do you have a hand up?
Yeah, sorry if I missed it. Is this for the main stem or for the whole watershed?
So the municipal documents that we're looking at are just for the main stem right now. We would love to expand to look at the whole watershed in the future, but for now it's just main stem.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. Bikeway Greenway updates. We don't have any at the moment. Fish Passage. So we had our fish parade on May 18th. It was a really great event. Here are some photos from the event. If you went to the one last year but weren't able to make it this year, it was a little bit different. It was a fish parade on the water. So we got in boats and we explored Lonsdale Marsh in Rhode Island. And we still had crafts and face painting and all kinds of fun stuff. So it was a really great event and we're excited to do it next year. So water quality updates, there was a sanitary sewer overflow on the 6th of June. So that was for Lake Quinsig, but then the following day, the levels of E. coli were tested and they were below recreational use limits. So I found this awesome photo of Lake Quinsig too. This is not my photo, but I think it's beautiful. And for CSO, we did change our meeting frequency. So our next meeting will be in August. We're going to meet quarterly for now until there's some more action items that we can kind of bring to the group. So for now, it'll be more of like a check-in. And then as Worcester develops their long-term control plan and asks for feedback, we'll increase meeting frequency and kind of go from there. So there was only one CSO event. I think that this date might be wrong. I think it was in June, but it was 4.6 million gallons treated and 0 untreated. And also really exciting, the city of Worcester came out with an educational video, which you can find on their website. And they also have this new alert system. It's called the Overflow Action Day Alert System. So when in the forecast, we're expecting really heavy rains, it'll send out an alert to anybody who signs up to say, hey, maybe like it says here, delay showers and baths, flush toilets less often, don't run the dishwasher or the washing machine to try to limit the amount of municipal water that Upper Blackstone has to clean and make more room for that storm water that the CSOs take in. So this is something that I've actually been really interested in developing just from the collaborative. So I'm really, really happy to see that the city's doing this. And I'm signed up, so I would encourage you all to sign up as well if you're in Worcester. Access, we don't have any updates at the moment. Dam removal and restoration. So we had a water chestnut poll hosted by Friends of the Blackstone on, I think it was Monday, the 16th. Monday or Tuesday. So we pulled over 1,000 pounds and we had 20 volunteers, which was really great. And then I thought I'd put a plug for other water chestnut events in Worcester happening in the next couple of weeks. So there's one at Coe's Pond on the 21st from 9 to noon, and then one at Lake Quinsig on July 19th from 9 to noon as well. So I would encourage you to get involved. It's messy work, but it's a lot of fun. It's a good time. We also have this new report on dam portage that Roger Williams Law Marine Affairs Institute put together. And it was created specifically for the collaborative funded by the Narragansett Bay Estuary Program. So this is a really great document, and we'll make that available on our dams website as well if you're interested. As far as grants, we received a 604B grant from Mass DEP to create a watershed-based plan for the whole region. So it's super zoomed out, but the point in that is to make all of the Blackstone communities eligible for future 319 funding. So yeah, so we're really excited about that. Thank you to DEP and CMRPC for working with us on that. And we'll have more updates as they're available.
What's 319 funding?
So the 604B grant is to create a watershed-based plan, and then the 319 funding is to implement those plans. So it's implementation funding. Yeah. So we're waiting to hear back on the DER culvert replacement grant, some MVP action grants that we were written into, and the Dam and Seawall Program grant that we're pursuing for the Hayward Landing dam removals. And then not funded, but we applied to the EPA EJ Thriving Communities Grant and the Trust for Public Lands on Common Ground program. Then a couple of partner updates. So there's been new catch basin murals that have been painted around town. These are a lot of fun. These are the new ones. I have a link in the notes to the website that has an interactive map, and you can kind of click through and see pictures of all of them. They're a lot of fun, so if you see them around town, you know, that's what those are. We also wanted to give a plug for the community fishing days that'll be coming up, hosted by Friends of the Blackstone, the National Park Service, and the Heritage Corridor, and also RIDEM. So we don't have dates for those yet, but we will let you know. Also, the Mass Environmental Bond Bill will be coming up soon. So I believe it's sitting on the governor's desk at the moment, but they had a update meeting that we attended. So really good news, essentially more funding for the work that we're doing. It's a total of $3 billion over 5 years at the state level. So that means 315 million for MVP, 200 million for the Resilience Coast program, 93 million for the Dam and Seawall program, 40 million for culvert replacement through the Department of Fish and Game, and 308 million for flood control from DCR. And then additionally, another 200 million for culverts through MassDOT, which is separate. Other things that they're looking to do are to establish a resilience-specific state revolving fund, which would provide low and no interest loans for construction and implementation of projects to communities. They want to establish a buyout program for both inland and coastal flooding. Also, nonprofits will be able to apply to the MVP program. You just have to work super close with a municipality. Permit streamlining and increased support for RPAs, regional planning agencies. So we're really excited about all of these things coming up. And really just the point of this is that there's a lot of funding coming through and we should try to be prepared for when it does come. So in terms of culverts, I'm sure most of you know culverts are kind of my thing at the collab. So I'm really interested in that. And I think having culvert assessments for your town or getting them done in the near future is a really good idea considering how much funding we'll have for culvert replacement in the future. Okay, so I'll turn it over to you guys. If you have any updates, you can throw it in the chat, you can shout it out, you can raise your hand.
Kaylee, Ted Beauvais from the Blackstone River Watershed Association, and we had a family fun fishing day scheduled for May 17th. The weather wasn't that great. It was moved to the 18th, was also your fish parade day. There was a less of a turnout, but there's still a good turnout, and it was a good event. And that's in partnership with Open Sky and Mass Fish and Wildlife and DCR, Blackstone River Watershed Association, Heritage Corridor, and it was at Riverbend Farm. And then a couple weeks ago, we were able to provide from the Blackstone River Watershed Association money we have from a supplemental environmental project in the Worcester Millbury area. We were able to purchase native plants, particularly pollinator-oriented plants, and they were planted at the visitor center in Worcester in partnership with DCR and volunteers who were able to get those plants into basically boxes right around the visitor center. So that's going to look better and it's going to be better habitat.
Great. Yeah, I had remembered that the visitor center was going to put some pollinator plants in, and I wasn't sure what happened with it. So thanks for the update. That's great.
Yeah, and they also have, just as a note, they have an additional amount of money that through DCR to do more pollinator gardens. So I think you're going to see a lot more in the coming years with their own resources around the pollinators.
That's great. Thanks, Ted. Anyone else? Yeah, David.
Yeah, just a brief update on our MVP grant that's we're in the process now. This is a regional grant for the Mumford, involves 4 separate towns, and we've hit upon seed projects. We're now sort of in the process of submitting them. And each town has gone in its own direction. But 3 out of the 4 towns it's some sort of variation on the theme of pocket forest or a riverfront park, which would be part of the community assets, so to speak. And these are seed projects, meaning they don't pay for the whole thing, but pay for getting these things started. One of the towns has chosen to do increase resilience in terms of food access by creating a community garden. So that's where we're at, and I'll keep you updated when things reach the next phase.
Great. Awesome. Peter?
Yes, an update on the water quality program. Heather is on vacation, well-earned vacation, but the testing on the second Saturdays has been going strong. And thanks to DEP and a water quality grant, we, working with Manchog Pond, installed 2 hobo loggers, data loggers for temperature, one on a tributary, both tributaries to Lake Manchog, and then also working with Lake Quinsigamond and the Excel group. We're doing some bacteria testing on Coal Mine Brook. So all systems are go on the water quality testing.
Great. Awesome. Judy?
Yeah, I just wanted to invite everyone to our annual non-point source management forum, which will be next Thursday, June 26th from 9:30 to noon. We'll be reviewing our new non-point source management plan and going over some updates that we've made to Inspire, which is our online capacity building tool, and also our watershed-based plan development tool. So I'll pop the link into the chat so everyone will have that.
Great. Thanks, Judy. Dan?
Yeah, I just wanted to give an update from the Tagnebrook Watershed Association. We hosted an event on June 4th for a local school, the Columbus Park School. This was actually the 3rd year we did this. It was kind of at Coe's Reservoir. There were about 60 fifth graders that came over, and it was kind of an opportunity for them to learn about aquatic ecosystems. So we had 5 stations. Katie actually ran with the city of Worcester, ran the cyanobacteria station. Worcester State actually ran 2 stations, a water quality and then a macroinvertebrate ID station. And Morgan, who was on the call, just had to drop off from Clark, ran like a dam and flood breach kind of simulation. And then I ran a fish ID station, and the students were all broken up and kind of rotated through all those stations through the course of the morning. Yeah, it was a really fun event. The kids enjoyed it. The teachers enjoyed it. It was a really nice day. I can share a couple photos of the kids in action. I think you can see
that would be
that.
great.
So is that coming up? So they got them at microscopes, and here's Morgan running the flood. So they really got their hands and feet dirty out on the water. So it was a really great event. So like I said, this is the 3rd year we've done it, and this group has really refined this event. So it was pretty fun.
That's great. Love that. That's so important, the hands-on aspect for kids.
Absolutely.
Great. Anything else? Any other updates we want to share?
Can I just ask real quick in response to what David was saying, does that mean that the potential Mumford H&H study or study of dams was not selected as the seed project?
That's correct. That's
Got it.
correct. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, good point. Thanks, Nick.
Mhm.
Peter?
Just wanted to update, it's really for the BRWA, but thanks to CLF and the SEP for the junkyards, the Conservation Law Foundation has now given the green lights for water quality education programs throughout the city of Worcester. It had been limited to just Quincy Village. So I know Joanne Hallhan at the BRWA has a great team that does school programs. So looking to get more done in Worcester.
Awesome. Love to hear it. Anyone else? Okay. So our next meeting will be on July 18th. We'll send the notes out from this meeting and the agenda for the next meeting ahead of time. We don't have a speaker chosen yet, so if you have ideas or things that you want to hear, or if you yourself want to speak, let us know. And yeah, thank you all for coming and sharing.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Kaylee. Have a good
Thank
weekend,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.